you need a headlamp to do a really good nocturne, or a lamp that kind of clips to your easel, battery powered, if you're going to paint on location. If you're going to paint indoors, it's a different story. If you're going to paint from photographs, so let's talk about that, because when you shoot a photograph at night, it's just not going to come out really well unless you have a tripod, use a good camera, and you do it on a time lapse so it picks up enough information. Otherwise, it's going to go dark on you. So as a young illustrator, I had to do many things where I was making stuff up. So I use a little bit of that knowledge. And generally, if I want to do a nocturne, I will do it from a daytime photograph. I found one that I kind of liked. I was going to do this one, but I decided to do this one instead, because I thought it gives me the opportunity to darken the sky, put a moon in, get a little reflection, get a little feeling of edge light from the moon. And so that's pretty much what I'm going to do. Working on an 18 by 24 piece of hardboard, really nice hardboard, almost an MDF type of hardboard that I coated with matte medium. So it's got the actual look. So if some people like working on raw canvas, if you coat it with a matte medium, some people like clear gesso. I don't, because it's too gritty, but a matte medium will seal it so that it's archival for so much. All right. So I'm going to use this is a Tombow pen, and I'm going to sketch with this. And it has a brush side and a pen side. I'm going to be using the brush side. I like sketching sometimes with this, just simply because if I don't like my sketch, I can take a little water and a paper towel or sponge, just wipe it right off. It's like immediate erasers. So I'm going to start with this. We're going to start up here. And about at this point, it comes down. We want to kind of approximate that angle, right? So there's that angle. All right. And then it angles down a little bit. And then it cuts over right here. There's a figure and a dog, which we're going to lose. So right about in there's a figure and a dog. Just these are placements. All this are placements, and these may change. All right, now we're going to bring, we have actually there's 4 plateaus. I've painted this on location. So there's a plateau here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. I don't know if you refer to them as plateaus. You can call them, shields, different planes. We have a front plane. Then we have something leading into that, which is kind of a nice thing, and it kind of comes down and goes over here, kind of like that. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about the thinking, because this is going to take a little bit more. I just realized I'm going to say this is going to take a little bit more thinking, which implies you don't think when you do, which is absolutely not true. There's a foliage I can see right in here. These are big. A lot of these are just going to be shapes. And then at about this point, we get this little promontory about out to here. And it goes up. I painted this area on at different times of day. This happens to be late afternoon. I picked this. I was going to pick some other ones. Pick this. One of the reasons I picked this gives you an idea. This is a cast shadow from these cliffs. So sunlight is not affecting this. All right. That being the case, it shows you what the skylight is doing to the water, particularly the flat water. This is a little bit different, but we're gonna keep it about like that for right now. And see if I want to change anything. Maybe I want to bring this down a little lower and out a little further. So we don't want to paint that cast shadow. That's something. So here we go with kind of the thought process. So there's my approximate sketch. One of the things I want to talk about is the thinking that goes in. Everything's going to be closer value, and it's going to be darker, and it's going to probably be cooler. All right, that goes without saying. Nighttime doesn't have the warmth of the sun or anything like that. And when you say nocturne, you could do a late night painting in which the sky is almost black. You can do an early night painting, which the sky is just a little different than this. Or you could do, I'm going to make it kind of, for lack of a better way of describing it, kind of an 8 o'clock painting, if there's such a thing. All right. So I'm going to start with a nice sized brush, and we're going to get the sky in, and I don't want it a little darker, maybe that value, but not as pretty. All right. I don't want the sky to be too pretty. Now, on my palette, I have 2 blues, 3 blues actually, because I have a light blue, which I didn't need. That's laid out for another painting I'm working on. But I have a lot of ultramarine laid out, quite a bit, and a little bit of Prussian. The difference being ultramarine is more of a blue violet, for lack of a better word, leans more that direction. And Prussian leans a little bit more towards the greens. So I've got the 2 kinds of blues. So I'm going to start with some ultramarine and white, a little bit of white, not much. Maybe bring some ochre into it. There, boy, that actually gave me a really nice color. Just the ultramarine and ochre right there gave me a nice color. Nice, I like that color. It's dark, but it's not oppressively dark. In other words, it's not like and it's not too blue. It's got a little bit of blue green. Now, you paint nocturnes. Nocturnes can go anywhere from almost a green type of a sky to a very blue to almost a violet type of a sky. So we're going to let it go down, because we're going to say the sun went down somewhere on the horizon. So the sun is over there, over that area. All right. With that in mind, that means this area is going to be lighter than this, where the sky, if we kept on going, we went all the way back behind us, it might be close to, really dark, maybe that dark. So that's how we're going to start. I'm going to, as it comes over to the ground over here, I added just a little bit more light to it. And if you ask me why, I'm going to say because I think it needs it. I'm not going to give you a real logical answer. That actually feels like almost a better color. It's got a little bit more blue and a little bit more white. It doesn't go too dark. So with that in mind, I'm now going to mix up more white, a lot of ultramarine, and a little bit of ochre. Those are the 3 colors I'm using. My palette today is titanium white, Winsor Newton titanium white. I know I use Gamblin a lot. I just happen to have a nice big tube of Winsor Newton, so I laid it out. So Winsor Newton titanium white, yellow, was it Naples yellow? I don't know how much Naples yellow I'm going to use. I didn't just lay this palette out just for this painting. I have other pieces I'm working on when I'm done with this that I've got to return to. So you can see it gets a little bluer at this point. That's a great color. I'm not complimenting myself. I just think I like that color. I think it's going to work. And it's going to go a little lighter as it goes down. Now, up in here, we're going to get a little bit more of a transition. So I can add a little bit more blue and a little bit more ochre to that same color if I wish. Kind of push it off to the side, and we'll kind of go the in between. We'll kind of mix them together. Big brushes do your work for you, particularly when you're working large or if you're working quickly. Now, as we move down, I'm going to lighten it. I'll lighten it with a little more ochre and a little bit more white. Maybe a hint of a warm. That warm could be a little brown. In this case, it's a little bit of a cat orange hue. Right there. I just threw some Naples yellow light into it. We just kind of work them together a little bit so they somewhat blend. A little bit lighter right at the horizon. More ochre, more white, more orange. That's quite a bit. That's probably more than I need, but I'm going to put it in there and then I'll fix it later. Now, when you're doing nocturnes, and I decided I'd do a nocturne, not from a nocturne image. Yeah, not from a nocturne image, but from another image. And I've done plenty of these, more as an illustrator than I have as a fine artist. But I have done some as a fine artist just because I thought it would work better. And sometimes I do it just to test myself. summer, when I was doing a workshop in Venice, we did a nocturne, a couple of them actually, in the evening in Venice, which I thought was a hell of a lot of fun. And they came out okay.
So Laurel would like to know, with these darker values, is there any concern with the light reflecting into your horizontal brush strokes?
Not right now. If there is, I take one of these and just do this. And you just knock down those horizontal. So I don't know if you can see it. I can see it right in front of me. It's changing. You see it?
You're still using the Gamlin medium?
No, I don't have, I'm just using terp right now. No other medium but terp. Okay. So, but hopefully that answers that question as to how you deal with those horizontals. So we're going to go here. Then we're going to come down kind of in here. I want to get the wave action in there, but I need a base tone. And again, since there is no shadow, now I'm going to add more ultramarine to that color, make it a little bluer. Now, ultramarine is going to darken it, so I'm adding white at the same time I add ultramarine. And we're going to bring it more that direction. So what we're going to do is just take that. I must have picked up a little bit of the, unknowingly picked up just a little bit of the Prussian. Doesn't bother me, actually. It's kind of nice. And you take some light blue, mix it in with that, maybe some Prussian this time, because it's coming a little bit more towards us. I don't know if this is going to work, but to me, it's worth a shot. If it doesn't work, I'll change it. The key in this whole thing is to keep these values very close together with an analogous kind of a palette. Nothing shocking at this point. The only time you get shocking is, truthfully, if they're painting a city scene and there's lights on, or you're painting a farmhouse in the distance and there's a light on there. That's the only time that violates literally that thing. Now we are going to get some reflections because I don't want it to be pitch black. I mean, if this went to a pitch black type of a sky, it's going to be different, but I don't want it to be. I want it to literally, I'm going to go up a little bit here. That was a great question about the vertical and horizontal strokes. All right, so let's continue.
Do you use the sunlight and translate that as a clue for the lighting?
No, because I'm not going to, sunlight is here because it's casting a shadow, and I'm going to put a moonlight right here. Okay, so I have two light sources, which, thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to talk about this. I have a flyaway. There we go. You have two light sources. You have the skylight, which we're not making black because we're not making it like midnight. So we're not making it pitch black. So we have skylight, and I'm going to add in moonlight, and the moonlight's going to be kind of faking. Now, what is skylight? Skylight basically is pretty much from above. I mean, you have skylight, if you think about it, there's a dome of sky over. So we're saying the sun went down here, and I could even throw just a hint warm in that if I wanted to. But sun went down here, sky over here, back behind you, is really dark. The sky above is similar to this color and value. So this color and value may illuminate some of the top planes, and then the moonlight will illuminate kind of the edge lighting from behind. That's my plan. Now, let's see if it works. First of all, anything that is darker than the sky is going to be dark at this point. So this is all going to be pretty darn dark, but I do want to leave a little bit of room so I can get a darker dark in there. So let's start with a clean brush and get the darkest dark that I possibly can up front, because that tells me where I need to be. So what am I picking up? My asphaltum and my ultramarine, or I can bring some Prussian into it also. Prussian just makes it a little greener. And I'm going to use a little medium in this because I could feel it was a little stiff. That's one of the hard things to learn. When your paint gets stiff, because I didn't realize this when I was first learning how to paint. I was just trying to paint, right? But when I was first learning how to paint, I wasn't aware of paint thickness and consistency and how you paint wet paint into paint, wet paint into dry paint, wet paint into wet paint. And that becomes a feel that you begin to develop. You begin to develop when a piece of paint you're laying down is too dry or too, if you're having to work to get it to go down, it's too dry. Then at that point, you want to touch with a little bit of medium, and then it'll go down a heck of a lot easier. So that's what we're doing right now. And I don't want those super hard edges. Right there, there's my darks.
Mitchell was saying that a night sky to the eye is not pitch black and has a lot of variety of colors.
It can. You can also, I've done pitch black skies, believe me, and it worked. In fact, I've got one back. Maybe Anna will grab it for me. I can show it to you. That one back there, Anna. Back there from Washington Square. A New York piece I just finished up where I went pitch black on the sky. So yes, you can. And that's a different kind of a sky, but it also shows lights in it. Yeah, let me pull it. Now, it hasn't been varnished, but you can see that's basically a pitch black sky. And the lights are what's illuminating the picture. So that's a different kind of a nocturne. This is a more of a landscape type of a nocturne. I still want those edges to be not too harsh. And there is a tree up there. We're going to do that the same value right here. And that's why I didn't want that sky to go too dark there, because I wanted that tree to still be dark enough. This is fun. I haven't done this for a while. A lot of times I've done it for classroom demonstrations, but it's just keeping your thinking straight, and not all of a sudden falling in love with something in the photo and turning it back into what the photograph is, because it's not. You're doing a different kind of a painting. So with that dark, let's keep going. Let's work its way down about in here. And then this whole area. Now I'm going to warm this up as it comes forward, even though it's dark. And I do see rocks. And there is foliage right here with a little bit of top light. And it sits right here. And there's junk there too. Someone left a bucket there. Idiot. California coast is really spectacular to paint. I know the Maine coast is wonderful. The Oregon coast is fantastic. And so it's not that these other areas aren't great. It's just I live in California, so therefore I probably paint the California coast probably more than any other coast. Now we're going to darken behind. This is pretty thin paint, by the way, just right now. You can see how I'm having to rub, because look at that, just a light touch and nothing's happening. So I either have to rub it in like this, push a little harder, or I have to add medium. And in this case, I don't want it to get too wet. So I'm actually just kind of rubbing it or scumbling. And it's kind of nice because it leaves some really nice under type strokes that are in here. And then we're still going to go dark. We're really not showing a lot of what you would think of as atmospheric perspective, because I could make it a little bit, just a touch lighter as it goes back, but not much. Add a little blue and a little white. So that's all we did. It's just made it about that much. I don't want it to get too blue because it's gonna, I want to use blue more for the top light. And there's a tree right here too. So let's kind of figure where that tree is. It's right there. Okay. And it's up about yay high. And you know what? I probably am going to make a mistake. In which case, I will fix it. Never heard me say that before, have you? Going to bring a little bit of warmth into it, because what that will do, warmth, I just used, when I said warmth, I just threw a little bit of asphalt. And I want the top light to feel cool. And so therefore, I want I don't want this to feel too cold. Okay, so there's the tree, pretty much. A little dark along the edge. So we're looking at values more than colors. We're going to bring information out as the piece progresses. But right now it's pretty similar. It's just value. And we want this edge. I don't like it lining up with the water. The water should either go below it or above it. And I will change that for sure. And I'm going to bring this out a little further to here. And by using this big clumsy brush, I get interesting edges. My edges don't become, if I use a little tiny brush, chances are my edges will be so brittle and harsh that it really won't work that well. So we're going to bring that edge, maybe a little bit more warmth into it. I threw just a faint amount of the cad orange light hue into it. Bring it down. So feeling a little dry, so I'm adding just a touch of medium. And we're going to go right there, there. And let's just scumble some stuff in here so it gets a little darker and kind of messed up. It's already feeling night-like. I actually wish I lightened this sky, and I think I might later bring it up a little higher, just so I get a little bit more light behind the tree there. But it's shaping up value-wise kind of the way I want it. All right, let's continue. We're going to get a little bit of that reflection. So we're going to take the sky color, which is the blue, the ochre, a little bit of white, and I'm going to add a little bit of umber to that, or asphaltum, if you will. Just a little bit. I don't want it as dark as some of my darks, but I do want to get a little bit of the reflection of this down. It's probably a little bit bluer than I want it. So I threw some more. And the reason that I don't want it too blue, once again, I want that blue top light coming from the sky. It's going to come over here. The reflections are going to stay kind of the way we see them. And if I have to change a value or something because they're so close together, remember at this point, that I may have to change a value.
So Lynn wants to know what makes cad orange hue so desirable.
Because I don't use pure cads. I like that's what makes it desirable for me. It's a nice red orange type of a color, but because I personally don't use cads, you're more than welcome to. I just don't use them because I've heard they're toxic. Now I've also heard from Winsor Newton that they're not. So take it as you will, but I've just gotten used to it, is really what it is. So it's not what makes it so desirable. It's that literally it's something that I've used for a long time. Now this reflects down here. And it continues all the way down now. Let's get it. Let's kind of get the reflection aspect. So the verticals will give you really pristine water, and a little bit of horizontal break in it will give you more of the water, the movement of the water. Okay, and we want that following that line, which it does right now. So we're pretty good there. I feel okay about that. Okay, so if I need to lighten things, I may want to lighten this. We're going to hit some of the other tones in there. So we're just setting this up. So I want to set this dark up now. All right, keep it warm. So what am I going to use my warm? I'm going to use my asphaltum. Now, if I want to, I can throw a little alizarin, but I don't want to. So one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to lift this just a touch. There we go. I wanted to be able to get all the way to the bottom. That's the reasoning. And we go here, over, and we're going to go up. See, I have to add a little more medium. You can see that the paint was not sticking, and I don't want to have to fight it. I don't want to have to rub it too hard. I like that little bluff that sticks out right there. And then we're going to add some more blue to it as it goes back to get a little darker. And we'll bring it down here. We'll look at my time. About 25 minutes in. And I wanted to have it kind of laid in at 30. And I'll just miss it. Not by much, but I will miss it a little bit, which is okay. Different. I don't know if you guys notice, I do this intuitively now, but I use my brush sometimes this way, sometimes up and down, sometimes I push it, sometimes I pull it. That is all for edge and textural variation. So it doesn't become too boring to look at. I'll just go on further. That's good. Okay. So that's pretty, that reads. Now I want to come in with the sand color, which is a gray. So I'm going to use the blue and the brown like I do when I mix my grays. Keep it a little bit more blue, maybe a hint of blue violet to it. And we'll test it. First thing we're going to do is see how it lays. Okay, that's not bad. A little bit more blue, a little bit more alizarin, and let's try it. And I've still got dirty color in my brush, which is fine with me because I don't want it to be clean and flat. And this is this sand area. Sometimes, this is one of the things about painting from your own reference. And I probably should talk a little bit more about that. That's all I paint from, unless someone gives me a commission and they want me to do something from a piece of reference they have. But generally, painting for your own reference, you know what it is you're painting. So you're not looking at a photograph trying to figure out, what the heck's that? What the heck's that? So
Laura has a really good question. What's your thinking with your values? Are you bringing them all down a couple steps?
Yep.
What's your logic on that?
You just said my logic. I am bringing them down a couple steps. What you're doing is in a nocturne, the value scheme compresses. Where in a daytime scene like this, that's got dark, pure white, right? All your colors. This is definitely golden more. Even this. Now, if you get another photograph, which I'm going to pull one up here, similar area, you see a lot of colors, and your values are not that compressed. But you compress your values to the dark side of what you would call your value range. So if your value range is white to black, and that would be middle gray, you're probably painting in this range right here. And I don't even have a middle gray right now. A little bit darker generally than a middle gray. So that's the thinking is you're compressing that value range. You're keeping it analogous, which means, a common color, and the common color is cold. It's more of a blue. So I'm doing that. So where here I see it jump a little bit more, I'm not letting it jump quite that much. Even though this is in shadow, this is probably similar. I've probably kept that similar. Okay. It feels like night so far. So let's go in with some of these in-between colors. Now that it's got to be lighter and just a touch warmer. Again, I have not lit it with skylight yet. So we're going to try this color right here. Nope, I'm going to throw more ochre into it. There we go. That might work. This feels better. Yeah, it still holds into that blue range, but it's warmer because of the ochre. And I like that. So that's going to be about my lightest light, with the exception of being an edge. I'm going to throw a little bit more asphaltum as we move up because I want it to darken a little bit more. Didn't darken it enough. Move it down into this, where it just kind of blends. If I need to distinguish it more in one way or another, I will do that. All right. So I want to go in between this color and that color. That's close. Let's keep going. There we go. Figured I'd hit it. Just didn't know when. Hopefully you get it second try. I always say, when I teach my quick studies class, I always say, first try is a guess. Second try, you almost have to live with it, even if you're off. Bring a little bit. Don't know why. I just felt like I needed just a little bit of alizarin into that color. I see it get warmer, but it stays really dark. So the values, we're getting color variation, but the values are so close together. Unless you're where I am, you really almost don't see it. And if I need to, I've got my dark over here, so I can always come back with a dark. Darks are the easiest color to mix up because pretty much it's ultramarine and asphaltum together. So it's not like it's a mystery as to how do I get to that color. Your only key is how much asphaltum, how much ultramarine. In other words, how warm or how cold do you want it, your dark.
Do you try to keep the darks transparent?
No. No, and a lot of times in alla prima painting, I don't do that. If I can, it works, but I don't want to feel like they have to be. I start with the dark, so I don't start as thick. And I finish with the lights, which I finish much thicker. So they're more transparent in that regard. They're not necessarily completely transparent. There's a lot of textural stuff in here. And this is just where you just let your brush do the work. Now I'm standing back, it feels okay. All right, as I stood back, I said to myself, looking okay. We're going to go back a little further, and we're going to right in here. Nope, thought I had it light enough, didn't. Let's try it one more time. That feels good. I like that kind of juiciness of the paint. Juiciness meaning kind of there's a viscosity to the paint, which adds a really nice kind of textural quality of the actual paint strokes themselves. As I stand back, okay, it feels like one of the things that I've told people when you do this stuff, it should feel too dark. If it feels like it might be a little too dark, you're probably okay, because you're going to illuminate it with two light sources, as I mentioned. The two light sources being the sky and the moon. Moon we will put in right at the very end. Okay. We're going to get this. This is going to be lighter because the actual local color is lighter. It almost looks like limestone, but we still want it to stay in that blue range. So we don't want it to all of a sudden change So that actually is okay. Let's try it. Might be a little lighter than I want, but as we approach the edge, I can probably let it get a little lighter, then darken as it moves down. A little darker. I'm just slightly varying. I mean, the color, I don't even know if you guys can see the color nuance, the difference in, it's more value than it is color, but it's pretty much warm to cool. Okay. Got the lightest part. And this whole thing should feel like a night scene that it's just almost too dark. It's like you almost have to, you ever go out at night and you notice you can see things, but you can't see things clearly. So, the other thing, and I was going to mention this because I thought about it before I started it, take note of things when you go outside. When you're, I started in art school years ago when teachers would talk to me about things. I started taking almost mental notes of light effects. And you try and store that in your brain so you can always, you'll never get it exactly the way it was, but you start to notice things. And it's the noticing that really, now it goes darker as it moves, by the way. Noticing it, remembering it are two really incredible, important factors if you can do that. Now, these guys that do visual development, they come up with as much information as they can, but a lot of what they end up doing is inventing. Sometimes it's from memory, sometimes it's from other pieces of reference they see. Got to get some textures in here. And just use the tip of that brush. I had some too much light up on my brush. Trying to keep it. I try not to clean my brush too much when I'm in this stage because the intermixing to me works. Now, other artists may not feel that. I do. I like the intermixing. It, you can call it, I like to refer to it as, it helps your painting harmonize. And want to get it, as it moves back in here, it gets darker and darker until it almost goes to that black. The values here are so close. So incredibly close. I mean, it's really, it's fun because you're using what you see. You're not copying verbatim what you see, but you're using what you see. So let's take a little bit of time and start to get maybe some of this white water in. Okay. And I mentioned I was going to do one of two things here. All right, I'm going to bring the water, I think, above it. I had a big decision. Water above, water below. Let's do the water above. I just don't like the tangency. That's pretty close. Again, it's not that hard to remember those colors. There we go. Whoops. There we go. I'll clean the sky up a little later. All right, let's get some of that white water. Now it's going to be illuminated by the sky. So I'm going to but it's white. So the value is still going to stay lighter. So I use Prussian and white, and we're going to come in like this. Nope, not light enough. Thought I had it. Let's try it one more time. That feels better. Feels a little too wet. Usually that isn't the case. Usually I have it too dry. So we're going to come in. That feels better. You can see I had it really wet there, and that's what caused that.
So Mitchell was saying he's wondering if lowering the light in the studio would help with visualizing the more
No.
compact values.
Nope.
Maybe
Because
simulate-
that means you're going to be painting in that light too. You still want you want your painting to look the way it would if it was hung, right? So truthfully, one of the things that I found helps, convert your reference to black and white.
Yeah, for a nocturne piece?
What?
For a nocturne piece?
Yep.
Or just in general?
I've done that quite often. But if you convert it to black and white, it gets rid of some of the warm to cool, and then you really have to rely more on your thinking. Now, I might be off in telling you this. It's, again, as an illustrator, generally we work from black and white reference almost all the time. So that's where some of that comes from. Okay, so we're gonna do that. Now we're gonna get a little bit of foam in the water, so we don't want it to be quite as light. Maybe I'm gonna throw a little bit of alizarin. I don't know. Let's see. When I say a little bit.
Yeah, it looks a lot lighter on screen is why.
This does?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, I can show you that it's not real light simply by taking my palette knife. I'm not going to put any paint down, but I want to show you something. That's pure white. So you can see how far away I am from pure white. Okay, I did a couple things I didn't want to do. So I'm going to go back to my watercolor, this base color here. And it doesn't matter if it's exactly, just want it close. That's pretty close, right about there, I think. Yeah. I want to cut in a little bit here. And back here. Well, look at that. Now I really have to make things up, don't I? We'll fix that. Oh, I'll find it in a second. That was a trick that I just planned on. Not. Okay. I got it up there with a piece of duct tape and probably didn't burnish it enough. There. Okay. So I reshaped that. That was really what I was trying to do with that color. Come in. Whoops. There we go. A little bit helped. And okay. So we're getting some of the action in there. I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it, but I want it in there enough to make it feel, pretty much correct. And we can go back with the white of the water. And I'm going to put some whiter whites in. Not enough. Let's do it again. And we get it right in here. This is probably too neat of a brush to do this with. So I'm still using the action and the values that I see, but I'm changing the colors a lot and harmonizing it to what I have set up as a nocturne palette. or a nighttime palette. Okay. So I'm going to clean my brush a little bit. That's almost a finished brush, and I don't kind of want it to look too refined at that stage. There we go. Got a little piece of white stuck up in there that's not doing any good. So let's get rid of it. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to want to distinguish that ground plane a little bit more. This back in here. So what I'm doing is I mixed a little bit of lighter blue in there, and we'll get a little bit of movement right in here. And I'm going to take this color and kind of push it back into the color that's already there. All I'm doing is lightening it so I can see the difference between the reflection and the actual cliff itself. I think I'm using too neat of a brush. It's more of a finish brush. I still got to go darker. No, I'm losing the reflection, that's why. Okay. So that feels better. I'm starting to get the edge. Now let's add a little skylight. Okay, I'm going to go back to this brush. And so what's skylight's going to come from above. First of all, I'm going to scuff this up. It looks a little flat. I just didn't notice it earlier. And we want to get some textural qualities back into this plane back here. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take this little bush here. I can definitely see a light on it. So I'm going to take Prussian, white, and ochre. That's probably lighter than I want. Let's try this. Yep, I was correct the first time. Let's try it again. That's probably a little too green, so I'm throwing some ultramarine back into it. I'm throwing some more ochre into it. More ultramarine. We're going to bring the light down. It feels too light to me, so I just took some of the dark and pushed back that direction. And because we don't have an exact,
Just wanted to see how light it looks.
wow, it looks really light. Yeah,
Wow.
it's not even close. That isn't even close to what this thing looks like.
I could probably,
I don't know. I'm not sure why it's coming out so light on screen because it's really dark.
yeah, I was gonna say maybe if I put,
Yeah, Anna just showed me how light it looks. Maybe when I start putting lights in, it'll look a little different because I haven't put any bright lights in it yet. And we're going to put a little bit of green into that foliage up there. Well, I'm learning something that's trying to.
wonder if that helps, just for the
Go ahead.
camera for a second, and move your arm though. This arm. I don't know. I have to look on screen.
It's just adjusting. I'm going to put a moon in. When I start getting some lights in it, it may look a little different. It's much darker.
Yeah,
So
there's just a
I
lot
will
of glare. It doesn't look.
I will post this later so everybody can see how.
Different.
Yeah, it's not even close on when I look. I just looked on the screen that Anna showed me. It's not even close,
Yeah.
truthfully.
Yeah, you can maybe tilt the painting forward a little bit once in a while.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I don't know if that helped. So we're going to add some top light.
No, it still looks like.
All I can think of is when I add lights.
Yeah. It's really funny.
Let's see what happens if I just put a moon. I didn't want to do this soon, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. Let's put a moon in. White, Naples, a little bit of light blue, white Naples, a little bit of that light blue, and some medium because it's pretty sticky. And we're going to put it
So Renate said it helped a little bit when we held out the blackboard.
now that's, I made the moon too big. That was just a little clumsy. So let's fix it.
Oh gosh.
Nope. Wow. I was shocked when you showed it to me.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to show you because it's so different on screen. You know?
Yeah, this is much, much darker.
Well, I'll keep trying to maybe hold the board up and tilt it every now and then. If that's helpful.
That's a pretty big moon, but there we go. We could, sometimes I like to make it a little bit lighter around the moon. Show you what I mean by that. A little bit of a glow. Put something like that in and just soften it out. Okay, that moon's going to come down and reflect right down in here. So we're going to see bits and pieces of it reflecting down directly. Okay, so back here in the water too, we'll get a little bit. That's too much. I just put it in too soon is why. Okay, let's keep going on this. Let's put a little more top light. See, it's hard sometimes when you go from what you're doing with the moon, but I want a little bit of top light on some of this. So we're going to put a little bit of top light right here. It's cool. Top light meaning sky, not on the edge, because on the edge is where we're going to see a little bit of the I like intermixing these cool colors. And again, it's probably too subtle. So maybe the nocturne was the smartest thing to do. Because it's actually working, actually, believe it or not, better than I thought it was going to work. And it probably doesn't look that way to you. But we're going to put some top light on these rocks. Skylight. A little bit here.
So Mitchell was saying that on his monitor, the painting has similar values as the photo. It's probably the camera's probably making them look similar.
Well, this is similar. Sky is, this isn't even, you want to see how dark that sky is? I'll show you because I'll do it right. I'll paint the sky color on the photo in one spot. Here's the sky color. That's the difference. I don't know if you can see that stroke. That's how dark the sky is because I would put it here. Yeah, actually, that's lighter than the sky.
Crazy.
Huh?
Crazy how it adjusts.
Well, that's one of the things that the cameras on your phone does. I know it will adjust. Okay, so we added some light here. We're going to add a little bit more. See if I can bring a little green into it. I want to get more of those rocks. I want to get the rock coming down here, going over and down. And then I want to do an inlet because I see there's a surfboard there, but I like the little piece of light that's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to bring it back here and make this little bluff come out a little bit further. And then we'll get a little top light on that, which is right here. It comes back in here, a little top light there. Top light, when I say top light, what I'm referring to is skylight. A little skylight here, too much. Okay, now I'm going to take a little bit of that moonlight and let it begin to affect some of these areas. So the moonlight is slightly warmer and lighter. So I'm taking the white, the light blue. This is going to be too much. I don't want to go too far with it too quickly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to look. That's way too light. Throw more ultramarine and maybe some ochre into it. I don't want it to be as light as a moon. Okay. Put a little bit, not quite that light, but a little bit of effect. Really subtle. There's also a rock, and I'm going to do more of a top light, but it's right here. Okay. So we're adding a little bit of top light. I'm going to take a little bit more of that top light, put it on some of these planes up here. I keep stepping back to see how it's shaping up. A little bit of light, not as much, but affecting here, here. Now we're going to come in on this right at this point. It's going to interrupt. That's a little lighter than I wanted. So I'm going to take one of these brushes and just kind of almost lose it. There we go. That's better. And it's going to hit and miss. Going to hit a little bit there, a little bit. It's just a little bit of a plane here and there. It's going to sneak around right about in here. It's going to hit and miss in spots too. You don't want to do it like it's a line. Now what I might do is right here. Step back. I have to keep stepping back to see, and I don't know how it's coming up on the screen. So look anywhere near it. Is lights helping or anything?
A little bit. I think when I hold, I'll try to hold the black up again and see. Laurel wants to know, is there much difference in the light values from foreground to background?
No. Nope. There would be more difference in the shadows from foreground to background than there is in the lights. So if I were to make more of a difference, I would make it more in the
Try this again.
foreground area. Okay,
It doesn't really,
I have no idea whether that works or not.
not really.
Okay. Now I'm going to take,
Darn. No.
oh, way too. Okay, I want to bring this light down a little further because I'm getting it lost there.
Gosh, it looks so different, darn it.
Amazing. Well, I will post this, you guys, on right afterwards. So you can see and adjust it. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
If you looked at that and made it a lot darker, that's how it looks. It looks very light. And that's one of the, all right, think about this now. That's one of the reasons it's very hard to photograph night scenes.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example why. I mean, if you have a hard enough time getting it, that's got too much light going on, for my opinion. And we want it to fade a little bit as it goes down, not be quite as bright. I want to pick out, maybe bring that out a little bit more, that one. And as it goes up to about here, so it's actually working better than I thought, but unfortunately, you can't tell. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to do a few little touches here. I'm going to grab a small brush and I'm going to add a little bit of warmth. See if I can make it a little bit more exciting. A little bit more warmth on the horizon.
Can you explain why shadows and different, but highlights are not that different?
Yeah, because darks fall together quickly. Darks will fall together and will create an overall look. Oh, there's a nice look at that orange. That's too much, but I put it in there with the idea of coming over it. Actually, let's try this. There's 2 or 3 ways you can attack this. Okay, now I'm going to take that same kind of warmth, but not quite that warm, but I'm going to let the moonlight start to affect the water, particularly the wave right here. And then maybe little parts. And then I want to bring some warms into that water around underneath the moonlight. Probably should have put that in first. I get that white water back there. Huh?
I didn't say anything.
Where it hits that white water, it's going to get brighter. And then we'll bring it. I don't like to use this little brush. I don't feel comfortable with a smaller brush at this stage. So I went back to a larger brush, a little bit more medium. I don't know if I ever answered that about why lights.
Why shadows are
Basically, the easiest way for me to state this whole concept is to start with local values and colors. Get the whole thing set up in local values and colors. Then start to decide on illumination. How much do you want to illuminate and what areas do you want to illuminate? And as I said, if you have a black sky, by the way, if you have a black sky, you're just not going to have that much illumination is from the sky. Your illumination will come from ambient light. Ambient light could be a light source that you don't see. It could be, the town could be over here, and there could be all kinds of things illuminating this. So ambient light can happen for a lot of different reasons. Where natural light or skylight, combination of skylight / moonlight, those are sources that literally are completely different than artificial sources. I mean, artificial sources such as ambient light from a city or a building or something of that nature. Just trying to get that tree to stand out a little bit more. Is one of my concerns when I first laid that sky in is I didn't get it light enough over here, which it may look like it on the screen, but right now it doesn't. So I'm lightening just a little bit of that sky in this area, and probably will have to take my trusty vertical brush and brush down a little bit so we don't get quite as much glare. Another thing I see people do is you can take and you can, where you don't focus as crisp on the moon as I have, and you basically take your moon and just let it fuzz. So your moon it's a little out of focus. And that's one way to do it. I've seen people do it up and down. Usually you don't do it sideways, you usually do it up and down. And it does a couple things. Number one, it loosens your painting up a little bit. And number two, it helps the out of focus aspect of the moon come into play a little bit more. So I am cleaning up a little bit around the tree. I'll try and do it with as many vertical strokes as I can. And that's why, I don't know if you guys recall, I said I lightened up a little over in this area, but probably not enough. That was my reasoning, is I felt like it wasn't getting, I was not going to be able to illuminate that tree area. Now, there's a lot of, I blended that sky. A lot of times I don't like a real blended sky. So I will come back very often and just begin to chop it up with a bunch of smaller strokes and give a little bit of color variation. Now in a nighttime sky, not maybe as much color variation as I would in a sunlit type of a sky. So we're going to go in and we're going to look at these rocks and see if I can clean them up a little bit. Whoops. That's what happens when you have too much of a wrong color in your brush. I want a little more of a top light, but I don't want it to. Now, you can take some of that moonlight if I want. I don't want to call too much attention to the rocks, but we can actually let a little bit of the moonlight affect them. Just slightly there. Too light. So start to just, you want to pick at everything. And I've done that where I've gone too far and picked a little bit at everything, and all of a sudden you get that doing too much. I'm just getting back every now and then to see how it's shaping up, giving a little bit more color variation in that water. And I can see it's reflecting a lot. So what I might do is just pull. So back. So I've left myself time where I can actually go back and hopefully refine a few things, like maybe up in here, get another little hint of rock a little closer to us. Always have my dark handy, so if I go too far with something, I can come in and adjust, get a little textural qualities back in here, little pieces of rock. Well, again, I'm sorry it's not working on online as well as I hoped it would. Now next week is Christmas Eve. I haven't decided I'm going to try anything. What I may do is do something and just put it up, and I won't do it because I know we're going to be busy. So I think we'll see if I can do that. Otherwise, we'll see after. Well, that's the following week is New Year's Eve. So I may do a couple of pieces and put them in the, so what they say, technical talk, Judy would know, in the can.
Well, they're not going to be around to post anyway. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. Well, I will post what's going on. I just know that it's kind of that busy time of year. Hopefully everyone's getting ready and having a good time and being careful with all this, all these new COVID variants hanging on. I don't want to tell everybody what to do, but please get vaccinated, get boosted. I got boosted about 3 weeks ago. So sounds funny. I got boosted 3 weeks ago. Now I'm 6'2".
What's your focal point or a couple main points would you say?
Well, this for one thing. Probably the moon hitting the water would be the focal point. And then you notice the moon illuminating some of the other areas. Now you notice that I didn't push it really far. So now I can take it and say, do I want to push it further? And the only way to answer that is to try it and see how it works. So what I did is I mixed a color that's quite a bit lighter almost a moon color. And we're going to just see what happens. We want it to skip and hit pieces of the rock, but not all of it. Yep, I like that. You know, I don't know how it looks on screen, but when I stand back, that works. And what I did is I've used this phrase before. I snuck up on it. Okay, so I didn't go for that killer bright right off the bat. And that's okay. It's just, I mean, it looks really red. These things are all very blue
And dark.
and much
volume.
darker. Yeah, I just brought the screen over for me so I could see it. And like I said, I'll post this thing. Hopefully I'll be able to get a better shot of it, and you'll be able to see
How different it is.
what I see.
Darn.
But I learned something. Don't try and do nocturnes.
On screen.
Which is interesting because I am going to be doing a video for, I think, a streamline pretty soon. It's not going to be a nocturne.
Yeah.
They're going to have me do a head and a landscape both. So I don't know if it's going to be 2 videos or 1 or. But it should be fun. The thing that I like to do in the videos, maybe you guys notice this or not, is not to go away and come back. You know, that's why I only do these 90-minute things. When I do studio paintings, by far, I mean, I've been on one for about 4 days now. You know, I would say maybe 3 or 4 hours a day on it, and I'm almost done. But I don't do 90-minute paintings. These are for the sake of, these are like giant studies. I may have used that phrase before, and I think it's important for you guys all to know that I've heard people say, "Whoa, you can really paint fast. Teach me how to paint fast." Well, I don't paint fast. I try to paint good. Okay, and if it comes out good when I'm working quickly, fine. But most of the time, it doesn't. It takes time. It's like it's something you can't do. You can get I can get a lay-in done quickly, but I cannot get all the finesse, character, paint quality, all those other aspects that I'm always concerned about in quickly. So if the painting takes me, however, like when I mentioned the one painting that I'm working on, it's not only that, I'm working on another painting at the same time. So I've been working on the one painting for about 2 days and the other painting for about 4. And the one of 4 is a 30 by 40 New York cityscape. Lots of buildings. I'm going to make that tree darker. So ultramarine and try to keep the strokes vertical because it's dark. That's the only way you guys are going to be able to see it. Otherwise, you get so many reflections. And then it works its way. I'm just correcting things now. Shapes that I see. Growth.
So I guess Mitchell had a good idea. He said next time just turn off the auto exposure and adjust it so it looks similar.
Can you do that on a can you do that on your phone?
I guess.
I don't know.
You're talking to 2 technologically challenged people here.
Yeah, I don't know if you can do that on your phone. Because this is we're doing everything that you see that we've done is done via the phone. So I'm correcting things now, just making some decisions as to, do I need to do something more? Because I've got enough of it laid in. I guess the other thing I should mention, I didn't mention it earlier. Nocturnes can happen quicker because number one, you don't see as much in a nocturne. You lose a lot more because all your darks are kind of going together and you're not separating them. Where so I added a little light to that foliage back there. Does that work? Maybe a little bit down below. So, but they can actually, you can actually get them done a little quicker. And it's because more things get lost. You don't have to define as much. You just have to make your decisions about your value control and any color you want to kind of begin to get into it. Yeah, those are two factors that you have to kind of deal with when you're dealing with any sort of nighttime piece. The color that now the flatness of this water bothers me a little bit. I'm going to see because of we've got almost 10 minutes, so I can do some super subtle adjusting and see if we can get it to work a little bit better. I still want the flatness, but I want a little bit of textural quality, and so it's real close value control in the light part of the water, right? Nope. Thought I might have had it, but I didn't. So I go a little lighter. Maybe. Kind of like the paint is dry enough where I'm getting this nice, almost kind of a toothy quality to the paint. And it's adding a little bit of movement to the water, which I like. Movement meaning value change. And I can do a little bit back here, I think. A little bit. Let's see. And I don't even know if this is, some of this stuff may be too subtle. It might not even be showing up on. And again, that's one of the things about a nocturne is the stuff is going to be a lot more subtle because your value, as I said right from the beginning, you're compressing your values. Trying to get that feeling of the white water and that kind of one little splash that happens right about there. And it works its way back here. And let that moonlight interrupt it a little bit.
It's beautiful from here.
An original, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it really, I did get the feeling of night. I'm very pleased about that. Unfortunately, it isn't coming off as effectively on the screen as it does. I want to break that up. I don't want it to get too, I mean, you can be really straight with it, but I want to get a little bit of break because the water is moving. And because the water is moving, God darn it, I keep getting too much light in my paint. I'm having a lot of trouble. I'm just, because I'm not cleaning my brush thoroughly. Oh, that's better. That's better. And I'm going to go one more time with that brush, see if I can get the the white water popping out a little bit more right here. And where the moonlight hits the white water, it should get brighter, which means right there. Whoa, look at that little hunk of orange that I threw in there. That was unwanted. And it's because I was really lazy when I put my brush down and kind of dragged it across and picked up that little hint of orange. I kind of like the color, it just violated the concept. That works. I think what I can do right on the other side of it. Just break all this up just a little bit more. And it just makes it feel like the water is moving when you do that kind of stuff. Now, if I want to punch any other part of this, which I see one thing I want to do, I want to connect this. Whoops, I had too much light in my brush. I want as dark as I can go, as black as I can get. But I want to connect this part here down to this. And if I want to scuff up, which boy, that's good. Pronounce. So what happened is a lot of my underpainting sunk in. And so I didn't maintain the dark punch that I had initially in there, which is fine. In fact, I like it when that happens because it gives me the opportunity to push darker when I want to get darker. So I appreciate it when that happens. And same, I can see it happening here. And here. So what you do is you don't go as dark as you think you need to go right in the beginning, and you just save that. So you know, I call it sneaking up, but it's basically what it is you're just giving yourself a little bit more room to go a little darker. And I like to do that with the lights. That's why I didn't pop those lights right in the beginning exactly the way I wanted them. Now, comes down. Look at this. You don't have to be this accurate, but I've got the time. But it comes down, and we get a little. Comes down right here. It's a little shrub, little bush right here. So it's thicker. You get that bush, and then it narrows out. Whoops. And you get these kind of interesting textural strokes. Don't worry about them. They actually add to the character of the rocks. Don't need that little light spot. That's just an area I didn't cover in the beginning. So is that. Sometimes those little flickers of light are really cool to have come through, but depends on the kind of painting you're doing. So it's pretty effective in its original form. Some of the values are sinking in. So once again, I'm going to take my two darkest colors, my ultramarine and we're just going to push a few more darks. There. Just clarify. You know, you use the time you have to do what you think you need to do. And that goes for working on location. It goes for working in the studio. Now, in the studio, time isn't that constraint. Or on location, it is. But I think the more you can actually go outside and do these things on location, the more you realize what you don't need to put in because you don't have the time. So you then have to make the decisions that are necessary to make the piece work. Where when you're in your studio, you can be wrong, you can do it again, you can be wrong, you can do it again, you can keep doing it. You know,
Why do the darks sink in?
what's that? Darks just sink in. Why do they? It's the nature of the beast. I don't know. I wish I could tell you why they do, but they do. They just tend to sink in, whether it's canvas or whether it's the board that I'm using here. They just tend to sink in, and you generally need to kind of go back and enhance them. But on the other hand, if you actually add, if you actually varnish it, the varnish it will reactivate those darks, and they will look much better. Now I'm going to add a little warmth in some of this because I have the time. So I'm adding the cad orange kind of quality. And we're at, oh, that's good. It's just maybe a little bit more.
You're just at 130. So
I don't even know if you can see it, but I'm adding some warms up close in some of these rocks. And I'm guessing, I'm not even looking at my reference. It just adds flavor. And I know I've mentioned this before about seasoning. It adds a little bit of vitality and snap color in terms of color. Values I'm really not changing much in the way of value. I'm just fussing with the colors. And we'll do one more thing that I want to do here. And that is a little lighter right down here. Well, it looks like it's shimmering pretty good. I mean, I'm getting a nice shimmer. I like the little touches every now and then of the moonlight flickering off these rocks.
I wonder what would happen if I zoomed in.
Well, maybe we'll do that towards the end. We'll zoom in a little towards the end. And I'm just about done, so I'm going to call it quits in about a minute.
Oh, actually, I can't zoom in with Zoom.
No, but you can take the camera off and hold it closer.
Yeah, I'll try.
It's a shame it isn't as effective as the other forms that I've been able to do. Hopefully it looks good enough where you guys are getting something out of it. And unfortunately, it's not what I was hoping you'd get out of it. Better try something. I don't know if this is going to work, but a little bit of that reflective down there.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work? Whoops. A little bit of what we're seeing is the reflection of that down in the water. Okay, I think we're pretty well done. I don't want to keep Judy any longer. We all have things we're doing.
Should we try?
I'm going to have Anna try. We're going to try taking the camera off the tripod of the phone, zooming in and see if that shows a little bit more. I'm not sure it will, but worth a shot, huh?
Sorry about that. Let's see.
Go in close.
No.
I mean, really close.
It's still
Not the whole thing. Go up. Just go up on a part.
still.
Yeah, it still looks like.
Yeah.
Okay, we will post this.
We tried.
Yeah, we will post this, and hopefully it will make more sense to you. I mean, it still looks okay because the values are all much lighter right now than in original form. I mean, for example, that's almost black. That's almost black. And so
try tilting it maybe a little bit.
What's that?
Try tilting
I'll try tilting the painting for one last
just for a second. Let's see.
effect. And That still isn't working. No,
Okay, we tried.
we tried. I will post this so you'll be able to see it in more what it looks like. But if I don't do anything next week, I'm going to wish everybody a Merry Christmas now. And
Yeah.
thanks for tuning in and watching some of these that are more experimental than others. I need to really thank the people from the Academy that actually helped me do this. When I first started this, I just did it on my own. And, since I teach at the Academy, they saw that I was doing it and said, is there a way that we can get in and do it too, use it for our students along with, everyone else that you're doing it for? I said, absolutely. It's not a problem at all. Just do it. I'm doing this because I like doing it. Hopefully you guys are getting something out of it. In any event, that's it. Thank you all. Thank you, Judy. Merry Christmas to everybody. Get vaccinated, get boosted, do whatever you need to do.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy.